guys, I'm Bella, the Maker Mama boss lady behind Fiber and Fox, and this is not an episode of my podcast. If you're just stumbling upon this video from wherever you came from, welcome. I am a crochet designer, and I also knit, and normally I talk about it in a kind of bi-weekly, monthly, when it happens at this point, podcast with all of you. But I also get up to some natural dyeing from time to time. Not as a business, not as any major endeavor, but I really enjoy dyeing things with botanical matter, I guess. I grow a lot of our own food and have some flowers and gardens, and I like foraging and all that stuff. It's a major interest for me. So being able to combine plants and growing and foraging with yarn and just take in the beauty of creation and slap those colors into fibers that I can then use is just a lot of fun. So I wanted to share with you kind of a roundup of some of the yarns that I've dyed in the last year or so. I've kind of been hoarding them up, and I've shared handfuls here and there in the podcast. And this is in no way going to be a tutorial on how to dye yarn. I do have a couple of vlogs on solar dyeing that I can link down below that are more tutorial style. But all of the dyeing that I do is very, I don't want to say haphazard, but it's very like, oh, I found this interesting berry, let me try to dye with it. Not really a ton of planning, not a ton of measuring or precision or recipe, because I'm not trying to duplicate colors. I'm trying to just have fun and see what colors I can pull from nature. So I don't usually record any of that, and it's very sporadically done and balancing kids and at night, and like, so it's not a pretty let's make a dye vlog out of it in my kitchen kind of scenario. And I frequently dump things and spill things and stain things and break things, and so it's not the most aesthetically pleasing dye method, but I do have a lot of fun doing it. And I've tried solar dyeing, I've tried stovetop dyeing, I've done some cold dyeing recently. So yeah, I don't really know what I'm doing, but I have fun doing it. So I'm sure there's someone out there that could teach you a lot more. This is more just an inspirational video. If ever you've thought about natural dyeing, it's really fun to try out. And it's relatively safe, and it's pretty cost effective because, I mean, you have to buy the yarn, but you don't really have to buy a lot of materials other than like what you're going to dye in, pans and such, which you can easily thrift, tag sale. So anyway, I'm not going to give a lot of details on how I made these things. I'm just going to share the yarns and share what they were dyed with to maybe give you some inspo to go outside and find some cool stuff yourself to try out. When I'm recording this, it is November of 2023, so it's kind of cold now to do some dyeing as far as going out and foraging flowers from your garden and whatnot. But I wanted to share these specifically now because a lot of these I'm packing up into an Advent project for myself. Not packing up, I will be knitting up into an Advent project for myself and then packing up into an Advent gift for someone else. So a lot of these skeins are accounted for. So I wanted to show them before they got all packaged up, and I do plan on doing a vlog as well on the making of the homemade Advent gift. So that'll be coming. But without further ado, let's look at some yarns. So I've kind of been pondering all day how I want to go about this, because I have like a pile of randoms, I have a pile of full skeins, I have a pile of Advent for me, and I have a pile of Advent to be gifted. I don't really have any rhyme or reason into how these got in these piles other than that's where they're at now. So I'm going to share them with you. A lot of these are going to be on mini skeins just because I found that very cost effective to buy a bunch of minis. I sourced all of my yarns, other than a few that I thrifted, bare skeins, or got from other sources, all from Nomad Yarns, Nomad with a KN. I can link that below as well. It's a great resource if you want to try dyeing, either natural dyeing or any kind of acid dyeing, yarn dyeing of any kind, really. They have all sorts of resources and great yarns, and are a popular supplier to some dyers that I really love. So I trust their yarn bases, and they've been nothing but awesome. I don't buy in like wholesale or anything, but they do have wholesale options. But yeah, so to grab a package of mini skeins is pretty cost effective, and I have some full skeins in 50 grams as well. And I usually catch it when it's on sale or have a coupon or something. And all of the bases I think that I'm showing today, more or less, with some might be 80-20 or 75-25, but they're all superwash merino and nylon bases, just because those are the easiest to get the mini skeins in. But I do kind of prefer on superwash wool when I can get it. So I would love to get some mini skeins in that. But these are all pretty much fingering weight superwash nylon blends, just so you know. And I will say, as far as dyeing and mordicing and all of that and the chemistry side of things, not super experienced. But for the most part, I have used citric acid to mordant because I have it on hand from canning. Some people use alum and other things, but citric acid has been pretty much my go-to, and occasionally I modify with some iron water. But that's pretty much it. And most of it's done stovetop, but I'll tell you as we go through. I think what I'm going to do is show you first this Advent that I have packaged up separately here. So this is a 12 skein set that I've dyed up to be gifted, and all dyed with found and foraged things. And my daughter helped me name the colorways, and she's gonna be 5 by the time you see this video. And pretty much all the colorways are named after video games, X-Men, or just like random things that she thought would be good yarn names. The Advent's for my mom, so her grandmother. So my mom is not gonna get any of these video game references, but my daughter thought they were appropriate names for yarn. So this is a 12 skein Advent. I haven't figured out what order I'm putting them in yet, but I'm doing, like I said, a separate video on these. But I will show you the yarns in no particular order, and we made little tags today and stuck them on there. So this, let's just get started. This she named Rouge, and it was dyed with black huckleberries that I foraged while we were on vacation. This one, not to be confused with Rouge, is named Rogue, right? Yes, Rogue, like the X-Men. And this was Arrowwood Viburnum berries, which were probably my biggest surprise of the season. We'll start straight out. It's amazing the colors that you can find. These were like a dark purplish berry, and this is not the color that I thought I was gonna pull. Purplish bluish, and it made this beautiful like wine color. So I was really pleased with that. And I do get a lot of purples and pinks and browns and yellows when dyeing. It's much harder to get greens. Blues is pretty much, you're not getting blues unless you're doing indigo, which is a whole separate source of dyeing and more complicated chemistry and whatnot. And greens and reds are pretty hard to get. So I have a lot of pinks and yellows and purples and browns, but I still think it's awesome. This one's name is Spyro, and it was dyed with fox grapes, and this was a solar dye. So solar dyeing, like I said, I have some blogs on how I do it, but basically putting stuff in jars and letting it sit in the sun. Pretty awesome. This one is called Bella Mama for reasons I'm not sure. We saw a restaurant recently that was called Mama Bella, and my name is Bella, so she thought that was good. And this one's name is Mama Bella, and it was dyed with silky dogwood berries. And this was a total shocker because these were like bright blueberries, and I thought maybe I'd get a, maybe like a purpley shade, but it made like a brownish pink. This one is called Carrot Head, which sounds like it might be a mean thing to call someone, but we called it that because it was carrot tops, which we did. This one was stovetop, so carrot tops from our garden, and it's like a citron-y key lime pie green. Super fun. And I will say I've watched some other natural dye vlogs where people share their yarns, and they're people that are selling yarns, so they don't necessarily want to share what they're dyeing with. I'm more than happy to tell you what I'm dyeing with because I want you to go out and pick stuff in the woods and throw it in a pot and dye yarn with it. I'm not doing this for monetary gain, so no secrets here. This one's called Robotnik, and it is dyed with hickory hulls. There's going to be a couple more hickory hull yarns that are going to pop up. This is actually leftover hickory hull yarn that I dyed last year, and it's actually what this sweater is dyed with. We have a shagbark hickory tree in our backyard, and similar to dyeing with black walnut hulls, it produces a really beautiful brown. This is held double with a mohair, so it's kind of got a more purple haze to it. The mohair I did not dye. But this cardigan, which is the Field Day cardigan by Ozetta, was dyed with yarn with hickory hulls. So that's a great source. This one's called Knuckles. And this was dyed with marigolds, and this was solar dyed, dried marigolds. I think there was actually some fresh in there. I don't remember. Go back to the vlog. This is a nice brownish yellow. This one's called Shadow. And this was dyed with fern spores, solar dyed, and then I over dyed it with a little bit of an exhaust bath of pokeberry. So it's a very, very light pinkish brown. And I should probably mention, I am in Connecticut, New England in the USA. So the plants that I'm sourcing, all the things that I've dyed, none of them are like from, like I didn't buy like madder or logwood or something on Etsy. This is all stuff that I've picked and foraged or grown in Connecticut. So take that into consideration. But red onions, they're readily available for pretty much everybody everywhere. This is with skins of red onions, and this is a solar dye. And I would love it if, as I'm holding up skeins, if there's something that really strikes your fancy in the comments, let me know which ones are your favorite, and if you've tried any natural dyeing. I know a lot of people have tried avocado. I don't think there's a single avocado skein in here. Avocado pits and skins are really readily available. Onion skins are really easy to get your hands on, both red or yellow onions. Those are a great like gateway drug to natural dyeing. This one's called Beauty, and I think this one is probably one of my favorites. This is with the exhaust bath, so the leftover after I'd already dyed those other skeins from the viburnum and the silky dogwood berries. So I did half and half. So this is the silky dogwood and that's the viburnum, and it made a really pretty variegated kind of mini micro striping skein. This one's called Gambit to go with Rogue. My husband's a big comic fan, so he's got my daughter in on it. So this is also black huckleberry, but this is the exhaust bath. So this was the original black huckleberry color. You can see the variation there, and then this is like after the color had mostly been absorbed into that skein. So slightly different. And then the last one, probably the most fun and the silliest name, is called Grapes in a Jar. Because did you know that if you buy grapes and you put them in a glass jar, they last in your fridge for like 2 weeks? You buy grapes, don't put them in a glass jar with the lid. They last for like 5 minutes and then they get squishy. So we have a song about grapes in a jar in our house, and every time we buy groceries, we wash those grapes and we put them in the jar, and we sing Grapes in a Jar. This one was dyed with wild fox grapes and autumn berries and turmeric exhaust bath. So again, kind of a combo of just leftover, seeing what colors I can get after leftover. So those are the skeins for the first Advent. And then I guess I will show you the skeins for my own Advent that I've been squirreling away for myself to make a, I'm not going to wrap it up as an Advent. It's not quite an Advent. It's going to be an Advent-y project. So for mine, I'm intending, we'll have to see because I'm going to have to mess with the gauge, but I'm intending to make, it's not out yet, the Daft Days cardigan by Rebecca Clow of, I said that really weird, Rebecca Clow of the Crayabea. It is a knit cardigan design, and it's kind of got like a broken rib pattern and stripes, and she made it with a 14-day mini skein set and then held double fingering weight. And then it's a DK weight, but I would much prefer to make it a fingering weight and not hold it double. So I'm going to have to, I was kind of creeping on the tester call. I wasn't intending on testing, but I was looking at the yardage and sizing and stuff to see if I have enough yarn to pull it off to make it fingering weight and change the gauge, because I'd much prefer a lightweight cardigan. I have a couple that are heavier, DK, warmer weights, and I would like it to make it a fingering weight only. So we'll have to see how that goes. But here's my intention. Inspo. This is not a great on its own color for my skin tone, but these were dyed last year with Fraser fir from our Christmas tree. So when you bring the Christmas tree home and you have to put it in the stand and you kind of saw off the bits on the bottom to trim it up and make it look pretty, this is from our Christmas tree last year, 2022. And it still smells like a Christmas tree. I was kind of hoping to get a darker color with it, or like a more greenish brown. It's a pretty beige brown. Kind of got a orangey warm undertone to it, but it's very wishy-washy on my skin. But I think if I use this as the main color of the cardigan and then add all the rainbow stripes, because spoiler alert, there's a rainbow, it might work. We'll have to see. And it's 437 yards per 100 grams, so it's kind of closer to a sport than a finger. It's on the thicker side, so maybe, I don't know, I'll have to play with the gauge. I don't think I have enough to hold it double, so I'm either going to have to dye more from this year's Christmas tree to accommodate, or I have a little bit of hickory hull yarn left in another skein. It's definitely not the same color, but I could probably get like a cuff or something out of it. And then I have one mini skein Fraser fir, but it's a little darker. So I don't know. This is about 100 and I think that's a mini and this is a mini. So about 140 grams no, 240 grams. These are 100 grams each. 240 grams. I have to see if that's going to be enough for the main color to pull off a fingering weight situation. But now for the rainbow. I'm going to have to put in a picture of these all together lined up because I'm really excited to see how these play out in the cardigan. And if I don't like it, I'm going to save them and do some other kind of project with all these lined up because I think they're just so amazing. These are the colors I have to say that I'm the most excited about. Out of all these skeins, I picked my favorites for me. And also, in picking my mom's, she is a big fan of pink. I am not a fan of pink, so she kind of got most of the pinkish ones, and I saved the not so pinkish ones for me. I think I have these in sort of some kind of order here. I'm going to try to do my best. I numbered them. But this is number 1, and this is dyed with pokeberry. I will say, of all the things I dye with, pokeberry is my favorite dye source. It is considered basically a weed here, and it's, depending on who you ask, edible, not edible. Leaves maybe, like, you don't eat it. It's not like a tasty like raspberry kind of thing. It's a berry that birds eat and then they poop and then they spread all over, and it's kind of a menace. But it has these beautiful, I'll put in a picture, beautiful deep purple, super messy, even when you touch it, like it gets dye all over you, berries that are an amazing dye source. So if you can get some on your hands on some, it's fantastic. And I know that Rue of Hand Carved Hooks, I think is her tag. I will link her below. She has a ton of inspiration on dyeing with pokeberry, and we kind of had like a little, not a make along, but like a little pokeberry dyeing challenge going this summer. And I have a ton in my freezer, and I've tried dyeing with it stovetop. I've tried cold dye. I've tried solar dye. She was doing like fermenting it in a pot or something dyeing, and you can get amazing variation with pokeberry. Like, I'll show you after. I'll have to set this aside. I will show you after, but the variation, like those skeins back there for a little sneak peek, those are pokeberry too. Totally different color. Amazing. So depending on how much heat you expose it to and the amount of time and whatever, produces a different color. I did say I don't like pink, but this is a good start to my rainbow because I don't have a red. And I know you can get red with like that thing that grows on cactuses, but I don't have that here. So I'm just trying to use things that I can forage. Was that skein number 1 or you knew skein number 1? Why are you both labeled number 1? I think this is 2. All right, so this is my second, and this is also black huckleberry. So I'd shown you some that I'd given my mom. This is one that I kept for myself. Kind of a purpley pink. So that's gonna be my reds. They're pinks. And then this beautiful orange. I really, really love this color. This is yellow onion skins on the stovetop. And I would like to dye some larger skeins of this because this is just such a beautiful, vibrant color. And it's amazing to me that there's so much pigment hiding. Like, some things are surprising, like the silky dogwood berries, they were blue and they produced a pink. So I love finding surprises like that where you're like, oh, that's not what I thought was going to happen. But when you take something that's pretty much just food waste, like onion skins, I know people in like Europe, they use them for like egg dyeing at Easter, but not something that you usually think like this is a valuable thing I should save. But they produce such beauty, and I am just in awe that God put so much color in creation where it wasn't even necessary. Like, why make the onion skins beautiful? But he did, and I'm grateful for that. So this is red onion skins. Strangely, like, this is a surprise. Like, this is the color yellow onion skins. You can see that happening, right? This is red onion skins. For those purple ones. This doesn't make purple. It doesn't make blue. It made an orangey brown. Again, a really, really pretty color that I would like to have more of. Either one of these, like a sweater quantity. It's really hard to dye a consistent sweater quantity. I always end up having to alternate skeins. But I think both of those are really beautiful. And then I love me a yellow. Yellow's my favorite. So this one was a whole bunch of things that I dumped together. So when I was doing the Concord grapes, I also had some autumn berries, and I had leftover dye, and it was like kind of pinkish, and then I threw some turmeric in it, and this is what we ended up with. Turmeric doesn't tend to be the most color fast as far as lasting, but it is very vibrant and beautiful while it does last. And that's the thing about natural dyes is they're not going to last forever. They are going to fade over time, and even the ones that are, I think it's called like photosensitivity, like the ability to hold color when exposed to sunlight, they're going to fade. We've chemicaled up dyes a lot more, so that when you buy a shirt and it's hot pink, it's going to stay hot pink, and when you buy something blue, it's going to stay blue. But these natural dyes, they fade over time. And I do store all of these. You can see kind of up behind me here is my yarn shelf, and those are my regular dyed yarns, like purchased. I didn't dye those, most of them. But those are all like acid dyed regular yarns that are fairly color fast, unless you left them like laying right in the sunlight for days or something. They're going to be pretty color fast. But these naturally dyed skeins I keep in baskets in a closed closet, so the sunlight is not coming in on them, and they're just going to last a little bit longer. And yeah, like if you're going to hang it out to dry or something, you don't want to hang it out in the sunlight. But back to my rainbow. So that was my yellow. And then I have more yellow. This is an exhaust bath of pokeberry. So I used up all the purple, used up all the pink, and it turns into like a very, very pale pink. And then I mixed in some turmeric again. And this creates like an orangey from the pink and the yellow together. So that's pretty. And then this is a very, very pale, it almost looks undyed on screen. This is one that I pondered over dyeing, but I think it kind of transitions me from the yellows into the greens. This is with carrot tops from my garden, and this was a solar dye. So I will show you now the carrot top skein. Yes, this is stovetop carrot tops, which produced a much more green. I was hoping to get a darker green, but this is definitely more like key lime citron-y, and this is more yellow. So it's interesting that the exact same plant matter, with heat applied in different ways, you can get totally different colors. So that's 2 different carrot tops. And then this one is dandelions, strangely enough. This was dandelions on the stovetop. And this is almost like if you put it next to the carrot top, it kind of looks more brown, but it's a green. It's a not quite sage. I don't know what color I would call it green, but it's a pale green. And getting a green is a really fun result, because those are hard to come by. You would think that all the plants and leaves in the world, it would be easy to get some greens, but it's not. They're tricky. So then I don't have any blues in my rainbow, and I love me a good Roy G. Biv. That's how things are supposed to be. But like I said, you kind of need indigo to get blue. I think with black beans you can kind of sort of maybe get a light blue, but I think it fades over time, maybe. I haven't actually done it. And I have a hard time dyeing with foods in like their actual food state. So like onion skins, I don't feel at all bad about dyeing with and throwing out, because they're already kind of a waste product. Or like the pits of avocados, or berries that I can't eat anyway. Or marigolds, or something that I didn't need to either purchase or grow to feed myself. So like when people dye with black beans, or like red cabbage you can also dye with, I feel bad about buying a food and then dyeing yarn with it. It feels wasteful. Not like beans or cabbage are super expensive, but I haven't ventured down that route. And I also try to, I'm not growing avocados, but I have those. I don't know. I could do beans. I probably should try it, but I don't have any blues. Long story short, no blues. So then I kind of have some going into pinkish purples instead. We're going to pretend this is a blue. This is a mystery skein. I need to go back into my vlogs and figure out what this came from. I think this might have been Black Eyed Susan's, but it doesn't have a tag on it. This was from my solar dyes last year. This is a pretty purpley brownie skein. Then we have another mystery, like Bella put labels on the yarns because you're never going to remember what they are. This was also, I think, from the solar dyeing last year. Doesn't have a label. This one has some really pretty pops of hot pink in it though. This might have been, no, it's not pokeberry. I don't know what it is, but it's pretty. So those are mysteries because they don't have labels. This is also pokeberry. So wild that this and this, I'm setting these ones aside so you can see the different variation, but all the colors you can get with pokeberry. It's amazing. Then this one is wild Concord or fox grapes. The big, you can always smell them before you see them. Growing in like September. Wild grapes, they're one of my favorite things. This is a really pretty color. And then lastly, this is other pokeberry. Like, how? This is all from the same, a garbage berry that people don't want in their yard. so bountiful and like, yeah, I'm setting aside the pokeberry ones so we can discuss those further. But that is my rainbow advent. And I know typically an advent is 24 days or 12 days, but Rebecca said that she used 14 mini skeins. So I made sure I set aside 14 because I didn't want to be yarn chickening. So if anything, I'll cut out some of the more pinkish colors if I don't need them when I look at the yardage. But stay tuned for that, because I'm sure that'll show up in the podcast if I do end up making that. I'm not going to try to do it like every day of Advent or anything, but that's going to kind of be my Christmas time project. I think, maybe. If not, these are skeins that are going to be used for something together, because I'm just really proud of that rainbow, and if I can get some blues in the future, then I will have a complete rainbow. So maybe I'll try to throw in some black beans or something, but I'm currently out of mini skeins unless I over dye something. So we'll see. But that is my Advent set. And then I just have some more randoms. So let's talk those. Okay, we're now into the territory of the skeins that have not been allocated to a project or gift, and some of which might be over dyed. But I figured I'd show you. Whoop, we're dropping them. We lost one. Come here. So in no particular order, I have this pile on my lap. I guess I'll do the 50 gram skeins first. I always feel better dyeing with minis because if I end up not liking them, it's just 20 grams, but some of these colors I do have in larger quantities. This is a carrot top, just like the other ones I showed you, and this one's a bit darker, and I really like this color, but it's only 50 grams, so I could use it for socks or a small accessory or something, but it's really pretty, and I would love to experiment next year with carrot tops and seeing if I can get maybe a darker green, because I've seen, is it Myrna Made? There's another natural dyer on YouTube who has gotten some really dark greens with carrot tops, so I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but I would love to get a darker color. This one is Red and Yellow Onion Skins Exhaust Bath. So those orange skeins that I showed you before, this was the dye left over from those, and then just kind of mixed together. I like to create kind of variegated skeins sometimes, especially to use for like socks and stuff. This is really fun. And this is Red Onion, so crazy. I hear a baby crying. We're gonna have to take a break. This is Red Onion Solar dyed, so this was dyed out in the sun. I'll be right back. All right, we return for more. Are you still with me? I appreciate you if you are, because this is a lot of just looking at yarn. I know this video might not be for everybody, but I figured somebody might like it. This is another random, I don't know what it is, so I'll just show you that. Look at that color. I dyed it with something in my yard. This is one of my more recent solar dyes. This is Mahogany Nasturtium, which I thought was going to make a pink. It is a bright, like deep red flower. And this was a solar dye, and it started looking pink in the water, and then it maybe wasn't color fast because it turned into this brownish grayish pink. So surprise, these things happen. This is more red onions. There's a lot of onions in here. Try to go faster through the ones you've already seen. This is Marigold with the addition of some Pokeberry Exhaust Bath. Just like to use up all that color, you know. This is a pretty boring color, but this is Rose of Sharon Solar Dye, which is definitely not color fast because it starts out as, let's see if I can find any deep in the skein, kind of a lilac-y purple color, and then it always fades to this dingy hue. So that I might over dye. That's the beauty of dyeing. If you don't like the color, you can always dye over it. These are autumn berries, which are a bright red. They are edible berry, but they grow in absolute abundance as kind of a nuisance. And this kind of produced, it was very sticky. This one was odd. It had almost like an oily film over it as I was dyeing it on the stovetop, and I've never had a berry produce that before, like a fatty layer. It was very weird because it's just a berry, but it looks almost like speckles, but it's actually sticky bits stuck in. Sometimes I strain the plant matter or botanical matter out of the dye, and sometimes I just throw it in there with it, and you get kind of varied results either way. But that was just weird. It was just sticky. I don't know. This was Black Staining Polypore. This is a mushroom. Foraged a mushroom. I'll keep it short, but I'm kind of learning more about edible mushrooms. That mushrooms are a whole thing. But my mom's pretty into mushroom foraging, and I know a few that I'm very confident in, and then the rest I'm like, I don't know what y'all are. But I thought I had found Mataki, Hen of the Woods, and it turned out it was black staining polypore, which basically turns black when you touch it. And it makes a decent broth, but isn't like a tasty mushroom. But I was like, oh, maybe if it stains black, it'll make like a gray or something. It didn't. It just made boring brown. So this is a possible over dye. But it's, yeah, there's just this whole pile of kind of meh beige ones that could be something else, but more interesting. It's all about experimenting. More wild grapes. You've seen that. This may also be wild grapes. Yep, this is more wild grapes. This was solar dyed wild grapes. So different between the stovetop and the solar dye, slightly. This is, I don't know, because I didn't put a tag on it. I might possibly more pokeberry or fox grapes, I'd say. This is the Arrowwood Viburnum that I've already shown you. This is an extra skein. And this is Black-Eyed Susans, which one time I got an army green color with, and then I solar dyed with them, and I got a pink. So I need to grow some more. For some reason, mine didn't come back. I need to grow some more and try and do stovetop dyeing, where I got, I don't have it to show you, but a deep, like, army drab kind of green. So those are my randoms. And then I have a couple full skein randoms that I will also show you, and then we will be done with this, and I will stop bothering you. Hopefully you've been inspired. But I have one more basket. These baskets, yeah, I think just this one. My husband's grandmother made this. Let's see. Fox grapes. We've seen fox grapes at this point, but I have 2 full skeins plus the minis, so I definitely could do something for my daughter, maybe myself, but I like the color variation in there. Definitely need to alternate skeins on these, but it's a fun, it definitely got a grapey kind of smell to it. Fun bright purple. And then also in the bright purple camp, we have these pokeberry ones. These I did cold dye. So basically, mordanted the yarn and then stuck it in cold water, and instead of exposing it to the sun or stovetop heat, just let it sit at like room temperature. It wasn't like cold in the fridge. Maybe you could do that too. I don't even know. But just let it sit in there for, I think, I'm trying to remember. I did at least 5 days. Might have been a week. Just hanging out in there. And it made really interesting color uptake things happen. A lot of, as I unwind the yarn, there's a lot of white and lighter colors in there. But we're putting this in the pokeberry comparison pile because it's just fascinating to me. You go over there. And then I have 2 that are caked up because I was going to make something for my daughter, and then I changed my mind. But these are also pokeberry. How insane. Yeah, this was pokeberry on the stovetop. Totally different. Very peachy pink color. Crazy. I need to just, this video is going to be like natural dyeing with Bella / ode to pokeberry because I love it. This is Black-Eyed Susans, and this was solar dyed. So again, I was going for that deep green, and I got this grayish pink. Surprise. Then we have pokeberry and turmeric. So again, combining that exhaust bath of the pink with some bright yellow to kind of get an orangey yellow. And I think this was that also. Yep, so I have 2 skeins of that. Maybe we could do something. I have kind of a fun idea for those together. Like, oops, I dropped one. But I really like purple and yellow together. My daughter would say this is like Spyro, but yeah, maybe a crochet design with these in the future. I think that's a great color combo. And then lastly, I have marigolds. Solar dyed last year. And this is a different yard base. I wish I knew what this one was. I think this might have been from Dyer Supplier, which is no longer a thing. But this one was more of a nice twist. I really like this base. I wish I could get my hands on more of that, but I can't. And then we have some bits of pokeberry, another shade left at the bottom, remnant from a sweater I knit my daughter. So let's round up those pokeberry skeins and look at the vast array of colors, and then we'll be done, I promise. All right, look at that. Those are all color variations of pokeberry. One obnoxious, dark purpley, messy berry. Different colors you can achieve. Some stovetop, some solar. It's insane, just insane. Like, look at this. Same berry. Same berry. Like, what? What? What is this magic? Same, I mean, that you can tell. It's kind of the same. This is the most vibrant for sure. Same. Same. You having fun yet? I'm having fun. Same. It's crazy. So the moral of the story is natural dyeing is amazing and super fun and super surprising and maybe a little messy and more time consuming, but it's great to play around with, especially if you're doing it with stuff that you already have at your disposal, be it food scraps or berries that you don't want growing in your yard anyway. It's just so fun. I cannot recommend it enough, and I would like to encourage you to give it a try if you haven't. And if you have, I would love to hear about what you have tried and your successes and fails. There's no fails. You can always over dye it, unless you like straight up burn the yarn or something, but in most cases there's no fails. I really enjoy this. If I keep producing this many skeins, I may have to sell some or I need to start using them faster because this is kind of a preposterous amount, but a lot of these are going into the Advent stuff, so I'll feel a little better about it. But thank you for hanging out with me. This is not my normal content at all, like I said. So I just wanted to share these outside of the podcast, just in case somebody was interested. And hopefully somebody was. And like I said, I'll do an Advent video separately as well on all the other little Advent trinkets and things that I've been putting together for that. So yeah, thanks for peeping all my naturally dyed yarns. And if you have any tips or hints or anything you want to share, or questions even, let's make the comments a resource. Thanks for hanging out. I've said that like 3 times now, so I'm going to go. I appreciate you guys, and I will see you in the next episode, whatever that may be.